Yes, here we are again, Abuelo and the Nieto talking Miami sports. And this is number 38, Tyler. We've done already. This is number 38, a lot of podcasts. We also have video clips that we run every week. So follow Abuelo and the Nieto. We're everywhere. We're in YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and the Abuelo. Miami Dolphins Spanish broadcaster, and there is Tyler Carmona, excellent writer, right, for Sports Illustrated, among other things. Also, former football player, and that number 87 is now available, Tyler. When you played at Savannah State correctly,
Yes.
so I can go in there and purchase a shirt, one of your
Yes.
shirts.
They can
Yeah,
get an actual. The shirts have been available for about a year now. The jersey. They now have jerseys available.
there you go. No discount for me. No, I have no. If
I
I say
think
I'm the
actually, yeah,
abuelo,
I can get some discount,
all
some
right.
type of discount.
This is number 38. And who can forget Jeff Fiegels? Yes, a punter. You know, we associate our podcast with a number. And 38, we didn't have that many. 39 coming up, we're going to have a good number. It's a good player there with a number 39. But 38, we have to go to a punter. And Jeff Fiegels, he's in the Hall of Fame for UM, and he performed at a high level for the Canes, and made the Pro Bowl two times as a pro. So Jeff Fiegels, number 38. Tyler, we have the playoffs in the NBA, and Oklahoma City playing at a very high level. They won the Western Conference Final 4-1 versus Minnesota. Actually destroyed them in that fifth game. They only allowed 94 points in that game. And right now, in my opinion, I think they're the favorite, the clear favorite to win the title. Doesn't matter whether it's the Knicks or it's the Pacers, in my opinion. They will be able to take care of them. They'll be playing four games at home. They're coming back to the NBA Finals. It's been a long time for Oklahoma City, but this is a very young team, Tyler. Average age 25 years and 6 months. Extremely young, but extremely talented. And those three horses that they have, Tyler, Gilgis Alexander, Williams, and Holgren, three outstanding players. Gilgis Alexander, I think, is going to be, or it's already, one of the best players right now, one of the three or four best players probably in the league right now. And Williams and Holgren, they're not that far behind. And this thing, I think, wins with defense and some of those numbers with turnovers, Tyler. I think that's going to make a difference, definitely in the final. And they can play at different speeds. They can slow pace you. They can play faster. They don't depend on the three pointer to win games. When you look at it, they can win getting three pointers, not getting all those three pointers, because they have people that can create their own shot, and a number of guys that can do that. And that defense what is going to make a big difference. Look at these numbers, Tyler. In the four wins versus Minnesota, and they did this before in the playoffs, and they have done it throughout the season. It's not something that just happened in a series. Versus Minnesota in their four wins, they had 17 turnovers, Minnesota in the first game. They have 14 in the second loss that they had. They had 21 in the third one. And last night, in this case, Wednesday night, they had another group of 21 turnovers in the game. I think that is really what carries them over the top, and I would like to get your feedback on this time.
Well, I think what's most important is that they're such a well-rounded team, not just in terms of their pieces, but just on both sides of the court, offensively and defensively, they're the best team in the NBA. So I think when you have that, you can't really go down the line and name a lot of teams that have been like that in the future. So not much to really compare them to, honestly. But I definitely I think whatever team ends up in the finals isn't really going to be any match for them at this point. You look at that the Knicks Pacers series is honestly shaping up to be a lot more interesting. But I think what for either one of those teams, it'll just be kind of a pat on the back to be there. But the Thunder will I say maybe a gentleman's sweep. Like you said, from Holmgren, from Hardenstein, that front court, and then obviously you have Gildress Alexander, you have Jalen Williams, who's another All Star on that team. So I think it's theirs for the taking, unless somebody gets hurt or something unfortunate like that.
Inter Miami, we should mention them before getting into the Heat selection as far as the draft is concerned. Inter Miami with a good win Wednesday night, 4-2. Luis Suarez and Leo Messi with goals. They needed a win. They have not been performing at a very high level recently, and now starting June 1st, they can sign players. Seattle and themselves can, and the MLS can sign players before the World Cup of Clubs. And they're talking about a possibility of getting some defensemen and maybe midfielders. And Brian Rodriguez is a name that's been popping up. A guy that is 25 years old, plays at America in the Mexican League. He's a talented Uruguayan player, very young with 25 years old. So that he's a midfielder, and I think they're talking to him. That is the rumors that we're hearing at this time. Well, those things happen, Tyler. This is a very outgoing podcast, so that's fine. Now, the Heat, the 20th pick in the first round, they get it from Golden State, and I got some names, Tyler, that I can get into, but I would like to get your feedback on one particular name that you know very well, because you have covered him, you have seen some of his games, and you have written about him. We're talking about Walter Clayton, the guard from Florida, because in my opinion, I think the Heat should go either point guard or small forward. A creative more forward, a guy that can create his own shot, a point guard that can help Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero had to basically be the point guard of this team last season, and he's more of a shooting guard. So I think those are the two positions they should look for in the draft, unless they make a trade, because they're talking about the possibility of a trade, trying to get a whale or I don't know, a horse. So I don't know what you want to call him. A guy that can really help them. A top player through a trade. But those I think are the two positions that should be looking forward to and look to try to fill out now. Clayton, how do you see him? A lot of people say that it will be a reach to get him at 20th, that he should be 25, 26, 28, maybe in the first round. He's a 6'3" guy. Uh, what do you think of the possibilities of getting him, and whether the Heat would go for a guy like Clayton?
No, I would be surprised if he makes it to 20. I think he'll probably
Or
go
you think he'll go
15.
higher? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he ended up, once he got to the combine, you measure it, 6'3", 200 pounds, whatever. I don't know if people thought he was small by looking at him on the TV or what, but 6'3", 200 pound point guard is it's regular size. That's probably even on the larger size for a point guard. Still, athletically he tested fine, and he was the best player in the country on a team that just won a national championship. I don't think he's a good fit for the Heat at all. I think as long as you have a player like Tyler Hero, unless you sit down and have a conversation with that young man, he's always going to think that he's the ball dominant player on that team. The person who should be taking the shots at the last second. And Walter Clayton is also that type of player. So I think he's better suited on the team, maybe like the Orlando Magic or something like that, who needs more of they have scorers on their front court. They have guys like Paulo Banchero, Franz Wagner, but they don't have kind of dominant scorers in their backcourt. So they could use a guy like him. So like I said, if the Heat's investment stays in Hero, I don't really see a point in adding a guy like that. If you want to add some dynamic scorer, I'd try to get a guy who's maybe a 4 or a 5.
All right. Some of the other names that some people are mentioning, I have done some research as far as who will be a guy that might be available and that might feel the need. I still believe that point guard and small forward might be the best options for the Heat. So some people mention some other names, but most people are mentioning this type of names. They most of the experts are looking at point guard and also at a small forward for the Heat. Will Riley, 6'8", forward from Illinois, tough-minded, still needs to develop, his game a little bit, but he's got the size, and they might go for a guy like that. Also, Drake Powell, the 6'6", he's a, he can play point guard. He can be also a shooting guard from North Carolina. A lot of people like him around that position, number 18, number 19, number 20, number 21. And there is a guy that's interesting, Nolan Traore. I believe that's the way you pronounce his last name. He's from France. He's a guy that is a forward, and he's a guy that should have gone early. A lot of people were expecting maybe top 10, but his last season in France was not that impressive, and they feel that he might be available at number 20. And then Knight Clifford, the small forward from Colorado State, 6'5" guy, 23-year-old guy, but he's a very well-rounded player already, defensively, offensively, rebounding. And this is the type of player that a lot of the time the Heat has liked in the past. A guy that is not really starting out like they did last year with the freshman center. So that is also a possibility. But it's hard to predict what the Heat is looking at, or is looking at. Another thing that, of course, if you have let's say a power forward or a shooting guard that is was supposed to be in the top 10 or whatever, and then he's available for you, and because of whatever reason, there's always a consideration that you might make, and not necessarily go for your need, but look at the best option, the best player available. We like to recognize Hispanic athletes, Tyler, in our podcast. And Joenly Hernandez. Joenly Hernandez is a guy that you should look at right now if you like boxing, because he's an up and coming middleweight champion, in my opinion. 7-0 as a pro. This is a guy from Cuba, from Camagüey, Cuba, that deserted the national team in 2023, and after winning the amateur championship, world championship. He had won the championship, the amateur world championship before in 2021. He won his second one in 2023. Over 60 wins as an amateur, only 27 years old. 7-0, 7 by knockout. He has Joenly Hernandez already as a pro, and he's fighting the most important fight of his career this Saturday in Las Vegas, national television, versus Kyron Davis, which is 19 3-1. He has experience against top 10 boxers. So this is the showcase for Joenly Hernandez. A big win here can take him to a world championship fight in the middleweight division. And Joenly Hernandez, by the way, has done a lot of sparring with Canelo Alvarez. So he's used to top level competition, and the group of trainers of Canelo are very impressed with Joenly Hernandez. The situation with Sandy Alcantara, Tyler, is interesting. The Marlins, worst record in the Eastern Division of the National League, one of the worst records in baseball, and that's not unexpected. But we were expecting Sandy Alcantara to be at the top of the team, and even maybe in the National League as far as strikeouts is concerned, maybe ERA, uh, because of the talent, But he comes off the surgery, the Tommy John surgery, and he's not really performed at a very high level. 8.47 ERA, record of 2 wins and 7 losses, 40 strikeouts in 51 innings of action so far. Wednesday night, they had a win versus San Diego, but he pitched 4 innings, he allowed 6 runs. So the question here is he going to be affected? Is the thing is going to be affected? Try to trade him. I believe that if they were going to give maybe three top players, top young players for him, guys maybe in the top 20, and as far as young players is concerned, in any particular team, we're talking Yankees, Dodgers, the guys that make the big trades in baseball. It's going to be difficult to get that kind of package back when you have those kind of results. I believe the situation for the Marlies right now, I don't know if you see it any differently, but I think that they should wait until 2026. A lot of the experts are saying that, physically there's nothing wrong with him right now. So maybe a lot of things psychologically, physically, that might take him a little longer to get back to his form. He coming off a surgery like that, and you have to give him more time. So if something doesn't really, click for him in the next 4 or 5 weeks, if I'm the Marlins, I just wait for 2026, and hopefully he'll be at a better position at that time. He finishes the season at a high level, and then the value goes up. It should, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think with players like that, especially coming off an injury, you can't expect them to just rebound, right away. It's gonna take some time, and at this point, yeah, it's the type of thing you just want to wait out because I think he's proven that he's capable of pitching at that level, and if he is pitching at that level, you're going to get a lot more in return for him than you would right now. So I would say it's worth the risk. And at this point, especially for a team like this that isn't one move away, you know what I mean? It's waiting a little bit isn't going to kill anybody. It won't be the worst thing in the world. So
Tyler, are you a little more excited with hockey and now with the Panthers? The Panthers gotten you a little excited. This is the third time around going to the Stanley Cup for the Panthers. They might win two Stanley Cups in a row. And I'm impressed, Tyler. Bobrovsky has been excellent, a goalie. And this is a very physical team, very, very good around the goal there, changing shots. They did change a couple of shots for goals in the Wednesday night win, the 5-3 win versus Carolina that gave them the championship in the Eastern Conference, 4-1 versus Carolina. I look for this team to do well, very well in the Stanley Cup. Probably it's going to be Edmonton. It will be a repeat of last season. And those additions of Jones and Marchand have been key for this team. And I think that they will be in a very good position to repeat as champions, the Florida Panthers. So go Panthers! Now, Miami sports trivia, Tyler. I have talked a lot. I'm already a little tired. Remember, I'm old. So, what do you have for me for Miami sports trivia? And make me look bad and foolish again, like you always do.
well, I know we did a couple Panthers questions and things like that, but this question I think I'm going to try to give you an easy one.
Yeah, please,
I
please,
expect
please
you to
do
get
so.
this one. This one is not a Panthers question, but who has the most combined career kick return yards in Miami Hurricanes history?
Kick return yardage. Uh, Well, I would say maybe there's one that is that name that comes out. A lot of people know that name. It should be that way, but you say that it's easy, but it's probably
Oh,
somebody else. It's not Devin Hester.
it's Devin Hester.
Well, you see, that's the way you're
I,
supposed to give me the questions. Sometimes you trick me, and the obvious is not the obvious, and I go for the obvious. Remember that I don't remember names as well as I used to, so I need the help. So that's the type of question that you should give me once in a while, not every week, not every week. I'm not expecting this every week, but once in a while, you got to give me one of these questions.
I
Do you
kind
have
of
some
thought you were.
numbers there? You got some numbers there on Hester, or you just going to give me a name?
No, it was 906 career return yards.
That's a lot of yardage, man.
Yeah,
That's a lot of yardage.
906, and he
It,
was. I
it,
mean,
it's a monster. It's a monster. Hester was, I mean, a tremendous special teams player, a tremendous player in college. Of course, in the pros, it was a little different. It was more of a special teams player, right? But the numbers are, and also in the pros, the numbers are, outstanding. My question will be is going to be a little more difficult, Tyler. My question is going to be a little more difficult because you deserve to have questions a little more difficult because you usually get 90% of this right. So the question is the following. Also with the Canes, how many undefeated 12-0 seasons has the UN football team had in their history? If you can, pinpoint the years or whatever, that's like extra, extra. but just give me the number. It is more than one. See, I always help you. It's more than one. Uh, it's less than five.
Can you repeat the question?
The question repeated again. Okay, how many undefeated 12-0 seasons has the UN football team had in their history? And those times when they were 12-0, they won national championships, by the way. And I'm telling you, they're more than one, and they're less than five, Tyler.
Let's say you can't you made it way too easy there. We'll say three.
Three, exactly, Tyler. You weren't absolutely sure, so I helped you. You see, I was kind to you. And 1987, 12-0 versus Oklahoma, they won the national championship again in the Orange Bowl. That was the Jimmy Johnson year, Tyler, 87. Then 1991, 12-0 again at the Orange Bowl, they beat Nebraska. That was the Dennis Erickson. That is, I was a Dennis Erickson title as a coach. And then 2001, maybe considered what? The best thing maybe in the history of college football. A lot of people say that, right? 12
Mm-hmm.
and 0 with Larry Coker, uh, the Rose Bowl, 31-14 over Nebraska. And they won the title in that year also. They have five titles in total, the Hurricanes, but three of them with undefeated season. I'll give you an extra, some additional information. The first year that the Canes played, they were undefeated, 1926, but it was only 8 games, 8-0, at
So
that time, 1926. I was not born there. That